Do you have what it takes? Do you have what it takes to go all the way? And no, I don't mean in the bedroom, sexually. I mean, do you have what it takes to have a lifetime marriage, a lifelong marriage? Remember when you were standing at the altar? I hope you said these words. Do you remember saying, "Till death do us part"? Are you going to make it? Did you mean it? How will you make it? Have you thought about that? Or have you, like a lot of people I know, been wondering about that? Or maybe even thinking like, we're not going to make it. How does a couple make it a lifetime together, happily married? That's what I want to talk about today. Hi, I'm Pastor Andy Ferguson, pastor of the Yakima First Baptist Church. Our full name is First Baptist Comunidad Cristiana. We're a bilingual, bicultural ministry, and we care about families. We believe family matters. Families matter, and therefore marriages matter. And the ability for a couple to stay together over a lifetime is something that's harder and harder to find and harder to do. My wife and I, my wife Ann, I met Ann when I was 16 years old. We're high school sweethearts. We've been married for 44 years, have 3 daughters and 8 grandchildren. And we love each other more now than we did when we first got married. And we know each other much better. We know how to live life much better than we did. We're not perfect, but it's good, and it can be good. I remember when we were in college, or actually when we were working at Biola University and mentoring college students, I had several of my mentees ask me, Andy, is it possible to actually have a happy marriage? I mean, yeah, it's great maybe for the first year or two, but when you have kids and all that kind of stuff, can you actually be happy? Because, that person and several people said, I don't know any couples that are actually really happy. And that just broke my heart. And unfortunately, I have to say that I think he's more right than wrong. And so I think we have a crisis going on, and it's not just my opinion. We have a crisis going on in America. I mean, the divorce rate's approaching 60% in our country, and the people just getting married and shacking up together and not even bother, getting married is growing. And so we can't even tabulate the number of people who are getting together and breaking up and getting together and breaking up. So this is creating a real problem in our marriage, and we live in such a what I call a microwave society where everything is instant, and so you have instant gratification, and whatever you want, all you have to do is hit a button here and this, that, and the other thing. So we have no patience to wait anymore. We don't have the ability to stick with it anymore through difficulties, and we've lost the capacity to endure things that are hard. And I think that that's a cultural thing, because of the media environment that we live in, because the instant thing, like I said, we're used to just hitting a button and having it respond right away. I remember dial-up internet and having to wait, for your computer to get connected and so on and so forth, and you have to wait, and your email was so slow and so on and so forth. And now, man, we want it faster and faster, and if it's not fast enough, we're done. And if it takes, God forbid, an extra 30 seconds at a drive-through restaurant, we get frustrated and might even start yelling at the people at the window. We've lost our capacity to endure difficulties. But I just want to ask the question, how are you going to endure? What does it take? It takes a lot of things to have a good marriage and to keep a good marriage. It takes selfless love. You have to be willing to let go of yourself. And what's interesting is because when we first fall in love and we're infatuated, with the other person, there isn't anything we won't do, right? And so, we've all been at that place. I think at least most of us have been at that place with the person that we're married with, where they used to be like everything to us, and we would drop what we would do. We'd want to spend every moment we could with them. We would spend money without really counting the cost. But unfortunately, when we get into, the marriage and everyday life, and the kids come along, and we get into paying the bills, and we got our jobs, and so on and so forth, somehow all that just kind of falls down. And so we don't have the same focus. And honestly, we're just not as selfless as we were when we were dating and we were infatuated and we were trying to impress. And yet somehow we need to keep that selfless, even infatuated, or I would rather say romantic love. That romantic love needs to be cultivated in the relationship. I truly love my wife. I think she's sweet. I think she's beautiful. I love hanging out with her. And I would love to see that in every marriage, but unfortunately I know that's not the case. But it's also something you have to work at. It has to be something that you apply yourself to. You can't, get a free ticket. There is no free lunch, as they say, and that happens in marriage too. And the movies and things we watch don't help because they all portray happily ever after. And I'm sorry, my friends, to burst a bubble, but there ain't no happily ever after. Not this side of heaven anyway. That you actually have to work to create happiness. And happiness in itself is kind of an illusion because happiness is a momentary experience. It isn't the deep down satisfaction that you know that you're doing things right, that you're living a good life. That's called joy. That's called contentment and conviction and living for purpose. And that's what you have to have a successful marriage. You also have to be able to communicate. You have to be able to know how to talk to each other and when to talk to each other. I mean, so many couples that I counsel, one of the first things I try to tell them is, time your conversations. Don't, unload on your spouse when they walk through the door or when they first get up in the morning or whatever. If you want to talk about something serious, you need to plan that conversation. You wouldn't have that conversation with somebody else outside of your marriage if it was that important, just at a whim. You'd kind of say, hey, can I talk to you about something? And you'd approach it a little bit more seriously and thoughtfully. And yet so many couples don't bother to do that as in marriage. And we don't know how to communicate. So we need to learn how to communicate. We need to learn how to resolve conflict. I can't tell you again how many couples just plain don't know how to resolve conflict. So they either blow up at each other and yell and scream and whatever and hurt each other with words and hopefully not more. Or we just become sullen and walk away and we put up the cold shoulder and just hurt each other that way. We are a depraved and deprived society that we just don't know how to act in loving concern for each other. And that's really what love is actually caring for the other person and acting accordingly. Love is a choice, it's not a feeling. And yet, again, the media and everything around us in our society says that you got to feel it in order for it to be real. You got to feel it in order to have happiness. My friends, that is not true. The feelings will come if you do the right thing, if you make good choices and you follow up your choices with actions and concern and so forth. That will build a foundation where love can flourish. And I'm telling you, it can happen. It's happened for me. And it wasn't always that way for us. It wasn't easy street for us. And sometime in our series, we'll tell you bits and pieces of our testimony, and you'll understand what we're talking about, that we didn't have, a silver spoon wedding or life. We'll get to that. But we need to deal with that. We need to be able to find support for our relationships. Another thing that our society is so broken up now. I mean, families used to live in the same cities, used to have support networks close by, where aunts and uncles, moms and dads could help watch the kids, help raise the family and be family together. Now we're all over the place. And with COVID, which we talked about recently, we don't even spend time with the family like we used to. And so this is putting stress on families. But you need help in your relationship. My wife and I did not create or have a successful relationship on our own. We had lots of help over a very long period of time. And that's what enabled our marriage to survive and thrive. And so if you're out there alone in your marriage, where it's just the two of you and your kids and you're trying to, keep it going and so on and so forth, man, I feel sorry for you. We want to help you. We want to help you, with some resources. We want to be able to provide some counseling, some peer relationships that maybe you can talk to about some of these things. Last episode, we talked about date night. Love to be able to help provide date night resources so you and your spouse can have some time together. We want to be able to help families in the greater Yakima area to thrive and survive, or I should say survive and thrive. We want you to be healthy and stable. We believe that Christian marriages ought to be examples of joy and happiness in the truest sense of the word, where true love exists in the home. and where husbands are looking out for their wives, and wives are respecting and honoring their husbands, and where parents are bringing up their children in loving and kind ways, and where children are kind and responsive to their parents. But it's harder and harder than ever to do that. Our society is against us. We no longer value marriage as we used to, or family as we used to, and so it's harder, and you need help. We'd like to help you. So join us in our conversation. You can call me at 509-902-4623. You can put comments in the video and we'll respond. Or you can email me at aferguson57@gmail.com. You can watch our previous videos here. And if you like what you're hearing, please subscribe and hit the bell down here to get notifications when we have another video. Again, we'd like to engage in the conversation. We'd like to help families in Yakima survive and thrive in the name of Jesus.